365 or 366, depending on how many days are in the year. I'm History Hefner, and for the next hour or so, as we do every Friday and Saturday, I will be answering all of your questions and comments, topics regarding history, social studies, and the like. And if you enjoy history and you love social studies, you are in the right place. And if you have a yen to ask any important questions regarding social studies, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will answer them in a timely manner, in a friendly, neighborly manner, as soon as I possibly can. And we will be live for the next hour or so. And I had an arrangement that I had to make, a meeting I had to make that I will be, so I couldn't cancel that. So because of that, I had to go live 2 hours earlier than I normally do on Fridays. Normally we are here at 8 p.m., but we are here at 6:10 and counting. So thank you for joining us. This is the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. I'm History Hefner, and if you enjoy history and social studies, consider liking and subscribing, dropping a topic or a comment or a question in the chat. I have long-form videos dropping every Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so go check that out later tonight. I'm doing a summary of Russian czars in a sentence or so, and then I'm really excited about Monday's video where I will be unpacking the 7 Years' War, the war that was actually the First World War. So you guys have heard me do this before on my live stream lectures, which happen every Sunday. But you guys get to check that out and enjoy my short series about Russian history that I've just started with my first video about Rurik and the Vikings, the Varangians, who settled the land of the Rus in the 9th and 10th centuries. So thank you for joining us. Harry's here, longtime Friendly Neighborhood historians like Harry and AI. Hello, thank you. Rodolfo, my wonderful moderator, is going to be holding down and locking down the chat for all of us. And remember, if you enjoy history, like and subscribe. And my favorite battle in history, that's a tough one. I like Poltava. That's the one where the Russian Empire really became a European superpower, where Peter the Great's army was able to get revenge on Charles XII of Sweden, ending Swedish domination and beginning Russian military domination in 1709 in Poltava in Ukraine. So yeah, that's an obscure one, but one of my favorites to be sure. What do you think of Donald Trump still not proposing one builder Congress using executive fiat to do everything he wants? He's got his budget going through Congress right now, but yeah. Executive power, imperial presidency is a modern revelation, and this president is doing it more than any other, and is on track to do it more than any other in U.S. history, probably because he wants to get things done. He understands that his party has a slim hold on Congress, and he doesn't want to risk that and let it get bogged down. He's more willing to do executive orders and then let the courts go back and forth about it if they want. So yeah. I don't think he wants to be a mini dictator. If he wanted to be a mini dictator, then plenty of U.S. presidents have been mini dictators, which, Harry, is comparable to the fact that if a political party in the U.K. has dominance over Parliament, they get to do whatever they want, and the other party only can just complain about it and give harumphs unless there's huge political dissent from the party. So if the Labour Party controls the British Parliament, or the Liberal Party in Canada, under the leadership of their prime minister, they can legislate what they want, with only the challenges possibly being from the courts. So what he's doing is not necessarily legislative, but it's not too far different than the political domination system that emerges from parliamentary systems, be they duopolies like in Britain or Canada, or be they multiple political parties like in Israel or Germany, where you have coalition governments that form. And Oliver, it does not jiggle jiggle, it falls. What European capital would you most like to visit, and what Latin American capital? Latin American capital, I'm going with Caracas. There's such an incredible, or Buenos Aires, just such incredible nightlives and such amazing history in the capitals of Venezuela and Argentina, respectively. The European capital would definitely be Paris, the city of lights. With the beauty of things like Paris. I mean, Ratatouille is my favorite Pixar movie, so there you go. And for those of you who are just joining, welcome. This is the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel, where we bring you history in a friendly neighborhood manner. And for the next hour or so, I'm answering all of your queries, questions, and topics and comments regarding social studies, history, social sciences, the humanities alike. So if you enjoy the outlook, if you enjoy the smoking jacket and what I'm doing here as History Hefner, if you like the topics, drop them in the chat, consider liking and subscribing. Even if you just want to listen and hang out, it'd be fine. It's fine with us. We just are for some good vibes, TGIF, am I right? Although in Great Britain right now, it's almost, I think it's just after midnight. So Harry, happy Saturday. Where the weed at? I don't know. I'm not a dispensary. AI, do you think that the war on Iraq was justified? No, because the reasons for the war of Iraq, as I talked about in the live stream lecture, which we do every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, which I talked about last Sunday during our live stream lecture, the reasoning for the war in Iraq was the justification of removing weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons, and perhaps even nuclear weapons from the possession of the Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. Those weapons were nowhere to be found. I'd visit the most race-based European country. Don't want to get mugged. Okay, no way. Thank you for trolling. And the moderator is Rodolfo. He should be holding down the chat. So, am I a pastor? No, I'm only giving a sermon about history. Difference is our government doesn't ignore our courts, and plus we have a House of Lords, which don't do anything, and our government does ignore the courts and follows the courts. It's a checks and balances system. We need Israel to get out of our government. Which government would that be? Durka. I love Paris. Berlin is a beautiful city. Want to go to all of them as much as I can. Ricardo, long lost son, how you doing? Good to see you. Let me see. And Trump has gone after the press. He ignores the courts. He has tried to overrule the constitutional. He hasn't gone after the press. He just doesn't like it. He has tried to overrule a constitutional amendment using the executive order. That's a symbol of wanting to be a dictator. No, it's not. He doesn't want to be a dictator. I don't know which constitutional amendment you're referring to. The birthright citizenship thing with the 14th Amendment is the fact that he believes the 14th Amendment was only intended originally, the birthright citizenship, to apply to people who were already in the country, who were born here, who had been born as slaves. He's technically correct, and he's using the technicality to ignore previous court precedents, which have extended those rights to certain immigrant groups. Is that two light switches stacked? Sure. Can you teach us about the history of the Rothschilds? Those are a banking family, very prominent in European politics and history and economics. So, and it's 10 a.m. in New Zealand. And is it Saturday in New Zealand, David? Thank you for joining us from there. I have never seen an albino polar bear. You got to look at the eyes. I've seen plenty of albino rabbits, though. Thank you, Ricardo. I appreciate that. History Wizard. I go by History Hefner because of the smoking jacket, but I'll take History Wizard. And Matthew, you are my moderator, but there's no reason to start screaming. Harry, if a government can ignore the courts, how is that a check? And it was the House of Lords who blocked Brexit for 2 years and shut down Boris Johnson's deal at first. Okay, that's fair, but the truth of the matter is the government can't ignore the courts in the United States. The courts have to be checked, though, by the government in their own ways. That's why Supreme Court justices can be impeached and have to go through an approval process by the Senate in the United States. That's why judges are approved of by the Senate and recommended by the president. Tariff war, who will win? It looks like right now the United States. China's yuan currency is really struggling. There are issues with its market, and the rest of the world was happy that President Trump backed down or caved or whatever you want to call it when it came to the whole tariff thing. And now he has 90 days to make 150 trade deals. Seems pretty impractical. The whole experiment may have been very impractical. So they do stuff. It's just we have reformed it too much, and we need to restore its power. Sure. Nyan, hey, great to see you. Kevin, hello, welcome. Welcome to the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. Tell me later, Deanna, I'll be here to listen. I'm hearing about Venezuela's economy is going from crap to more with the recent tariffs and sanctions. They were in favor of Trump, but weren't expecting this. That's interesting, Fidel. I wouldn't be fully surprised there. There's really a lot of problems, and they need as much free trade as possible. And Venezuela has been, in the past, one of the biggest oil exporters in the entire world, so there's that, and that's gone. Iberia, who did 9/11? The Saudis. The Al-Qaeda, led by, he wasn't Saudi Arabian, he was Afghani or Pakistani, so Osama bin Laden. It's just after midnight. Happy Saturday, RR, in the Netherlands. Are you from the Netherlands? Because I love Dutch culture and so many things about Dutch history. Sargon of Akkad, violent, Shrikian, great to see you. Sargon of Akkad, tyrant or visionary? Your thoughts, sir. Well, Sargon of Akkad was a ruler of a area of a city-states, which was common in ancient Sumeria, called Akkad. And Sargon, basically, through tyrannical power, was able not only to control his people, but conquer large segments of the land of what was called Babylon, which now includes Syria, Persia, and Iraq, or some areas around there. And because of that, not Persia, not Iran, but he was able to create the first real kingdom in Babylon, which became known as the Paleo-Babylonian Empire, and it actually was pretty successful. So I see him as a groundbreaking guy, a guy who makes history move forward, makes that engine of history move forward. Definitely with Sargon of Akkad. History King, I'll take it too. I am not here for financial business bussin'. Fair enough. Been asked a question about history, and I'll be happy to answer it. Will you vote for Trump when he runs in 2028? I don't know if he's going to get there. He might. He really doesn't have much of a case to stand on trying to override the 22nd Amendment. I don't share my political views. What Donald Trump's ignoring the courts at the minute he refused to take back immigrants when ordered to by a court. They've ordered that his administration has to return and give an explanation. From my understanding of that, they are not giving an explanation as to why they deported that guy, but the guy is going to be returned. I mean, he should be, absolutely should be. Yeah, man, Saturday here, brilliant day. Looked into them bringing back the deer wolf. Not really a full one, but it's a cool experiment in my opinion, especially if we can bring back the moa. Interesting. I don't know what those are, so you're going to have to explain that to me. Happy birthday, you nobody lover. Hopefully someone loves you. Hi, Eve. Good to see you. This is the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. I'm not Canadian, but good guess. Do you think modern civilization will collapse within the next 50 years? No. I don't think it'll be recognizable, because modern 50 years ago and modern now are very different things anyway. So in 50 years, with the growth of technology and the exponential changes in the way we understand and process information, things are only going to change much more so in 50 years than they did from the last 50 years. So modern civilization 50 years ago would be almost considered primitive by Gen Zers and alphas who have grown up with cell phones and things like that nobody had a concept of in 1975. In the future, and other recently extinct birds. Oh, interesting. Very cool. Thank you, Al Kine. God bless you too, I guess. Watch Building 6 and 7 fell. How? Because they became structurally unsound. There was a fire. This is how things happen. Ronnie, opinion on Trump. I think he made the greatest political comeback in American history. I think I'm analyzing it as a historian. I think he is one of the most brutish and selfish, and what's the word? Boorish individuals to ever be president, but he has gotten things done based off of that, and would have had a successful first term had he not downplayed the COVID virus and then had January 6th, which will always be tied to his legacy one way or another. What will keep Trump off of Mount Rushmore are not the accomplishments he may or may not have had in his first term and may not or may not have in his second term. It'll be January 6th, which keeps him off Mount Rushmore. And I'm just looking at it as a historian. I really dislike the overemphasis on hating Trump from a historical perspective and saying we've never seen anything like this. This guy's a fascist dictator. I find that resentful. I've been called a fascist for simply asking what fascism is and people not being able to explain it to me. Nobody knows what a fascist is. A fascist is anyone I politically disagree with now. No, a fascist has a very clear political ideology and very clear goal of what they're going to try to accomplish. Mussolini, Hitler, Franco, Perón, Pinochet, these are real fascists. The Rwandan dictators, these are real fascists trying to bring about fascist governments. It's not quite the same with Trump. He's not a fascist, and he's not the only president who has done this. Andrew Jackson, Teddy Roosevelt, even Franklin Roosevelt were just this dictatorial, obsessive, and in your face in some ways. I think Trump has just ratcheted it up because technology has allowed him to ratchet it up, and he's obviously the most childish, though, I would say, of all presidents. Hey, Ghost Rider, great to see you. Salam to you, Amsterdam. How are you? From the Netherlands. Thank you for joining us. It's just after midnight there, thanks to R&R telling me. Do you believe in ancient aliens? Good question, stupid man. Not a stupid question at all. Very smart question. The truth of it, so I'll just call you smart man. When you are referring to ancient aliens, you are referring to people like the Anunnaki, who are supposedly angels who came from the sky, who might be aliens, who helped create ancient civilizations in Mesopotamia, Assyria, and Egypt. No, I don't believe they necessarily existed, but what's fascinating is the legend of ancient gods from all over the world. No matter where you are in the world, you will find ancient historical groups who believed in what we would call paganic, polytheistic mythologies, and believed in giants and mighty beings and angels coming and living and dwelling with them. The Bible has this in its accounts. The Quran follows the Bible in that example. So the Abrahamic religions believe in this to some extent, or at least did believe in it to some extent. The Anunnaki are an example of the idea of ancient aliens, the ideas that have been used to build megaliths, giants, mighty men of renown, things like that. Those legends are all throughout ancient civilizations, all throughout the world, in Europe, in China, in Africa, in Asia. So I don't believe in them, but I believe people believed in them, and I believed it made a difference. So history isn't just about what happened, it's about what people said happened. So, and if you want to read more on my thoughts about how history works, check out my Substack where I write articles and give information there. So, AKU, cover laugh. I don't know what you're saying. Colossal brought back deer wolves. Interesting. During what time was the most beautiful beauty standard for women and also for men? Could be different times. I mean, it all depends on how your standards of beauty are. Beauty standards and fashion standards change as time goes on. What's attractive now in outerwear, like clothing, wasn't attractive 50, would be abominable 60 years ago, and what was fun 50 years ago is seen as weird or odd, be it haircuts, shoes, fashion, skirts, dresses, ties, suits, things like that are all changed, and those obviously accentuate or help with identifying human beauty standards. So I think the ancient Greeks and Romans had this kind of idea of athleticism as a surefire way of attraction and being attractive. You had to be athletic, you had to be well built, you had to be muscular, you had to be well defined in your features. You had, that's a common. And I think that was a very powerful beauty standard. In Europe, in the 1400s, the whiter your skin, the lighter, the paler it could be, the more attractive you are. Now, something about me is, obviously you can tell, I've been pale in the past. I got a lot of sun at that wedding I went to last weekend, and so because of that, I got a little tan, and being tan, you feel good, you look healthier. It's considered to be a more attractive standard. Not so in Japan, historically, as well as medieval and early modern Reformation era Europe. So people would actually apply makeup to make themselves whiter, thinking that was more beautiful. So there's been different beauty standards that fluctuate. I mean, in Africa, piercings and things like that and tattoos have been huge markings of attractiveness that haven't exactly been the case in other societies. Women shaving their heads, for instance. Thomas, yo, great to see you. Do you think Donald Trump is improving or destroying the U.S. world dominance and world influence? Harry, I think what he's doing is he's changing it. I don't know if it's necessarily destroying. We'll have to see what it looks like. I think a lot of people think America is a joke, and a lot of people in international communities do not respect Donald Trump or what he's trying to do and see real danger in that. And he thinks that they underestimate him, and so he whips back at them with tariffs and things like that, and then forces them to the drawing board and stuff like that. Hey, Hugh Hefner. It's not Hugh Hefner, it's History Hefner, because this is the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. I'm History Hefner, answering all of your questions. A historian answers all of your questions and queries related to social studies and the humanities. Are you from Delaware? No, I know you won't answer this. I'm trolling. Thank you for guessing. I've gotten a lot of states. I haven't gotten Delaware yet, home of President Joe Biden. Would you rather watch a tree grow or a Negro? How? Hilarious. Wow. He got me to say the Spanish word for black. He's amazing. Do you know if Jesus was found in any history books? I mean, ancient historians like Tacitus and Josephus ascribe to the fact that Jesus of Nazareth existed and his followers were obviously heavily inspired by his ideas. Got any bunnies? Only Simon the bunny. Krushkara is asking, have anyone told you you look like Nadal? No, I've never heard that before, but I appreciate that because I think he is a handsome fellow. Have you seen that Tourette's movie with Robert Maxwell? No, I have not. Sounds interesting. So LVP, the only accounts that claim that Jesus did miracles are there's only two different sets of accounts. One is the Nag-Hammadi Library and Scriptures, which are a group of Gnostic writings that appeared in the 2nd and 3rd century AD, which corroborate that Jesus was not a physical being, but a spiritual being sent to earth, and he performed certain miracles. And of course, the Christian Gospels are the other example, and those have the 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which describe Jesus of Nazareth, his life, his death, and his resurrection, and despite all of the mythical and religious elements in them, the spiritualization of it, they are not too far off in other biographies that often include the deities of the Romans and the Greeks by other historians, biographies or histories. So the Gospels are a reliable source of the history and the life and times of Jesus of Nazareth. I'm not saying they are 100% accurate, but I am saying they are intended to be history books, as is the book of the Acts of the Apostles. These books, despite the fact that they are contested about their validity based on the resurrection of Jesus, generally are accurate representations of his life at work, his life, teaching, and death. I'm not saying anything about miracles, resurrection, or things like that, but I think it's not historically ignorant. It's only historically ignorant to say that Jesus didn't exist or didn't die on the cross. Both of those are almost verifiable by almost all sources, Roman, Greek, Jewish, or Christian. Yeah, best decade in human history. Thanks. Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, it's hard to pick a best because there's been so many decades in human history. My favorite would be 1880s because I would love to live in the 1880s in like Paris or something like that. You've got this development of electric lights and stuff like that, and all those sorts of things. You've got the can, you've got the classical music of Debussy and Offenbach. You have so much fun going on there, and you've got the paintings, the brand new paintings from Renoir or Manet. You know, you gotta love that. Sorry, the deer wolf, like from Game of Thrones, and Moa is a big extinct bird from. Oh yeah, the Maori wiped them out. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that, David. I love learning about some zoology. Yeah, who knows, Turk Patch? We'll see what happens. The Christian church assimilated native people because they believed we were witchcraft. Yep, basically that's true. Natives were pagan cannibal savages. Not all natives. Which natives? Native Celtic English people? Yes. Natives in Central America? Yes. Natives in certain coastal areas and Polynesia, some of them? Yes. But not all natives were like that. In native groups, whenever you say natives to refer to native peoples, and usually it's the Native Americans, that is a broad brush stroke that covers hundreds of different groups of people with different backgrounds, beliefs, and cultures. And very few of them were cannibals. Yes, that is true. The United States on the reservations had these American schools where they tried to force Americanism, Christianity, and the English language down the throats of the Native American children. It's horrible. Were the gods astronauts? That's a common belief on the whole Anunnaki thing. So, do you know 3 gods that are all brothers? I mean, you're referring to Greek, Bailey, that would be Poseidon, Zeus, and Hades, the 3 main Greek gods. Look up residential schools. It's true, residential schools. Absolutely, Don. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let me see here. Anunnaki is real, not a legend. How do we know it's real? Where's the evidence that they're real? There's testaments to them, and a lot of people have kind of incorporated them into their mythology and religion of the ancient paganic peoples of the Near East, Egypt, and elsewhere, but we don't know that they were necessarily real. But I will say, when you have a civilization in the middle of the world that has this idea a civilization in South America that has this idea of giants and angels coming from the stars, and you have that also in Mesopotamia without these 2 people ever having any sort of communication whatsoever, there's probably some truth to it, at least in the sense of an interpretation of a certain event. I mean, look at the biblical story of the flood. The flood is an interpretation of how do we understand rain? Why does it rain? So there's ideologies and mythologies all throughout human history that explain this is how the way the world is. So an ideology or mythology that developed in Mesopotamia is interesting, and one that develops in Central America is interesting. But what's really fascinating is when they both tell the same story about these giants or visitors from the star. Yeah, let me see here. Shush. No, I'm good. I won't shush. I don't think I will. By collapse, I mean a massive loss in social complexity and population as a result of insurmountable systemic problems. Cosmic, it hasn't happened yet, so I don't know if it'll happen or not. Look into it. Are you just here to troll with Catholic stuff? I don't know what you're going for. All tradition bad, all change good. Yep. And that's not true, and neither is the opposite. Let me see here. I'm proper white because I live in a very cold country, Scotland. I like how that makes you proper white. It's kind of racist, but funny. Yeah, Don is not disrespecting anyone. Look into it, so stop it. Thank you, Rodolfo, for handling the chat. America bows down to Israel and jeopardizes things with that allegiance. Yes, I've heard this many times. Not any more than it bowed down to Great Britain during World War II. What's your favorite, where are you from? Rajesh, I'm an American. I don't share exactly where I'm from. I don't share my occupation. I don't really share that much about me because I'm just the vehicle that brings you friendly neighborhood history. So very good question. You can just go, I'm just History Hefner answering your questions and topics related to history and social studies. What's my favorite cocktail? Ooh, good question, Eve. Oh, it depends what I'm in the mood for, but if I'm going to go with something complex, I'll go with a martini because that's just class all around. Okay, look, that's not okay. You are not going to say that to anyone who's been in the chat who's doing a nice job. That is definitely not okay. So stop it. Are you from Kansas? Keep guessing. He thinks Britain is some Islamist nutter country who has done nothing to help the U.S. or the other world, and apparently we haven't fought a war in 40 years. We were literally in Afghanistan with the U.S. I know that Britain was there with the U.S. and has done a lot to help the U.S. Oh, that's the vice president. Oh, yeah. Sounds about right for him. Are you yeah, I would say that's Liz. I definitely am. A great documentary to watch. Israelism, very educational. I will be sure to watch it. Thank you, Tom Cruise. And I hope you keep making Mission Impossible movies. What do you think of a Smithsonian? Would you ever watch a tree grow? Yeah, funny aviator. We've already gotten that one. Very funny. Very nice. The Smithsonian's obviously one of the most. It was actually, so Harry will like this. The Smithsonian was actually founded. It was endowed by a Brit who gave money for the Americans to collect their art and works and art and archaeology and historical pieces. So that's where the Smithsonian actually comes from. And obviously it has a lot of secrets and has collected a lot of information and materials throughout all of history, some of which are extraordinarily confidential and extraordinarily secretive, like any advanced library, like the Library of Alexandria that was destroyed, or the Vatican archives. So I think it's a fascinating institution and I really like it. I want to go. Hello, good to see you, cool man. Would you rather eat no, I would never do either, Naish. And I would rather less than all of that answer any more of your questions. When was the best time to run a cartel? I need more options for when I get a time machine. I think the 20s Chicago, they did pretty well. If you can only get Al Capone on tax evasion when he did so much more nasty stuff, that's pretty good. Did you know parrotfish blow bubbles for survival? Oh, that's kind of cool. Thank you for sharing that. The 1880s was great. We were the greatest world power. We ran the world and we owned the seas. Rule Britannia. Not now. We're a pitiful joke. Harry, very, very nationalistic of you. And technically all of that is true. Patricia, accept Jesus. For what? How much gold is currently in Fort Knox, if any, and what can, according to Elon, it may not be any. I don't know how much gold is in Fort Knox. I would like to look more into the history of that, so if they ever do go in there, I've got a history video ready to go. But obviously Fort Knox, Kentucky was named after Henry Knox, who was an American Revolutionary general and the first, I think he was the first Secretary of War under George Washington. And he had a fort named after him where they eventually started storing the U.S. gold supply. Fort Knox has become less and less important because America has gone off the gold standard since the 1930s with Franklin Roosevelt. Thoughts on the socio-political economic state of the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo? I don't know exactly. I'm not up on recent Congolese history. I think if that's where Joseph Coffey is, there's a lot that's horrible that's happening there right now. We're talking about whatever you would like to talk about because this is our Q&A, Ask Me Anything for the Friendly Neighborhood History channel. If you like social studies and you like what I'm talking about, or you like the smoking jacket, or the sound of my voice, or the look of my eyes, consider liking and subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. What do you think about Friedrich Nietzsche? I love Nietzsche. I think his best advice was when you stare into the abyss, make sure the abyss also stares into you, and do not become the beast you seek to destroy. A lot of people, because they think they're doing the right thing, start to take on the traits of what they are destroying because they start to have an inflated view of themselves. So, love Friedrich Nietzsche. How much time would you survive as a frontline soldier in Ukraine, you think? I'm a coward. My hands shake. I wouldn't be that good in combat. I would have an office job. I would be the guy cashing Zelensky's checks. Marcelo, hello. Scotty, hello. Thank you for joining us. A Negroni or Gimlet? I've had both. Very, very nice cocktails. Thank you for the recommendations, though. Yeah. Yeah, you saw the socks recently? Yeah. Oh, wow. You got a sock slip. Must be so happy. Coming soon. I'll be sure to go watch it just for you. Most important video game historically. Assassin's Creed. I mean, Assassin's Creed is the most historical video game I can think of. Assassin's Creed is the most impactful video game of all. I mean, not Assassin's Creed. Mario. The Mario franchise is the most impactful video game in human history. Hello, Adon Ali, great to see you. You are joining us from Turkey. So we got people from Turkey, the Netherlands, New Zealand, and Great Britain. This is wonderful. I love it. What are your thoughts on the Phoenix Light sighting from 1997? I don't know much about it, so I can't speak to it. Which is more important, the CIA or the FBI? Depends who you ask. When it comes to promoting American imperialism, the CIA. Here's one. Where do you stand on the school of thought that Yukmakoten was a de facto terrorist organization? I don't know much about it, so I can't quite say. If I don't know about something, I'm going to look into it, and then I'm going to come back with an answer. So next time, do you believe in dogs? Of course I believe in dogs. They're amazing. This man is interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. And when Tom Cruise endorses me, you know that I've got it right. And thanks for that Scientology stuff. Best live on YouTube. I really appreciate that. You're so sweet. Galori, hello, welcome. I just said it. I am early, Simon. I'm sorry. I have an engagement that I forgot about, and then I was like, uh-oh, and I can't miss it, so I moved it back till 6. but it allowed you to be there, and that is Simon the Bunny, my wonderful moderator. So someone was asking if me, Mr. History Hefner, has any bunnies, and I do, Simon the Bunny. And then again, however nationalist that's what it was, it true, and we did a better job as a world power than the U.S. or anyone else ever did or is doing. Mm-hmm. I will say this, Harry, in your benefit, since even though I disagree with you, I will say that if Great Britain did not have that empire, Germany would have won World War II. But also, if Britain didn't have an empire, there might not have been a World War I, meaning there would not have been a World War II. Or, I'm sorry, World War II and III. This Monday, check it out, 8 p.m. Eastern, you can watch my video in which I explain the 7 Years' War, the first real world war in the 1750s. Pac-Man is extremely influential. I will go with that. And yes, please speak English. I don't know all of the different languages. I'm just so glad that you're here. Oh, we love you very much too, Kelly. How about Darwin? Do his findings and theories still stand today? Darwin's an interesting guy to me because it's kind of like Freud. So Freud is kind of this, and even Einstein. Einstein's theories have been challenged. Newton's have been challenged. But that doesn't change what amazing scientists and mathematicians they were, nor does it change the fact that Freud got a lot of things wrong about human behavior and human needs. And Erickson's dichotomies and dialectics are considered better than Freud. But that doesn't mean Freud wasn't extremely important and influential. Do you believe in spirits? Yes. Tequila, rum, and brandy. Have a good day, Green Hippo. Thank you for joining us. Amelia, would you ever make a movie with Tom Cruise? Bro, you look like a woman. Oh, go on. Am I a pretty woman? Walking down the street. Thank you for subbing. I don't know how long you will be. Fred, you're talking about balling. I do love basketball. I do like sports as a side thing. So maybe I should do a video. I talked about the Super Bowl. Maybe I should do a video where I predict the NBA playoffs that are happening or who's going to win MVP, because I heard that's quite a race. Should America allow foreign light-duty trucks in our market? Yeah, sure. Why wouldn't they? Americans are racist, true or false? Some Americans are. Some Indians are racist. Some British people are racist. Some South Africans are racist, like the South Africans that are taking land from white people, the Boers. Or the Boers who committed horrible acts during apartheid. Racism is not monopolized by one country or one society. Racism is part of the human condition, hating somebody because they're different. The Sons of Liberty, by definition, are terrorists, but from what I can gather in the U.S., they are heroes. That's true, Harry. I do agree with you. The Sons of Liberty did nasty, nasty stuff that would be considered terrorism. They overblew the Boston Massacre, then the Vitarian Fevering, and you look at many of the founding fathers, other than Jefferson, a lot of them really did not approve of that. Use a translator? Yes, please do. Ronaldo or Messi? Oh, my hair's messy, so I'll go with that. I hope you will have a great weekend too, Carrie. Great to see you. I'm trying to catch up to the chat as much as I possibly can, so if you haven't gotten your question answered, don't worry, I'll be right with you. Remember, consider liking and subscribing. Are you celebrating Pesach with your Jewish friends? Yes, I am, Simon. Thank you for asking. Dude, look behind you. There's a spider on that golden thing. I'm sure there is. It's the itsy-bitsy spider. 4 cups of wine tomorrow. Good. Excellent. Are you just doing that just because or because of that? Yes, but Passover, the Jewish holiday, which celebrates their exodus from the land of Egypt, supposedly in the book of Exodus, the second book of the Old Testament, happens tomorrow. Sit on your hands. This is uncomfortable. X, you are thinking of converting to Judaism. Very beautiful and ancient religion with a lot of great history. For it, good luck on you and everyone and their spiritual journeys. Numerous rebellions and revolutions have failed to achieve their intended goals, showcasing the difficulty of challenging established power structures and the complexities of social and political. Many individuals have pursued personal goods like travel or artistic creation, but have encountered obstacles and setbacks that have ultimately prevented them from achieving their aspirations. I agree with you. Have any girl... no, not at all, Blue. The Goonies was primarily filmed in and around Astoria, Oregon. Yeah, which I've been to. With some scenes also shot in Cannon Beach and Goat Rock. Lawrence attempted to shoot President Andrew Jackson outside the United States Capitol. Yep, so Andrew Jackson's the first U.S. president who gets an assassination attempt. A guy runs up to him, tries to shoot him, the gun misfires, and people try to dogpile him. But Jackson, who's really old at this point, takes out his cane and starts beating him over the head. It's very, very funny. Nobody ever got a shot off against a U.S. president, though, until Lincoln was killed by John Wilkes Booth. I have always believed there are trash in every color, but it takes a chance to see the heart of every person instead. What's on the outside? Preach. What's the significance of Salt Lake in Utah? With the health benefits, history, or anything related? So Fidel, Salt Lake is the biggest, I believe it's the biggest lake in the area. I believe it has a higher salt concentration, more salination than other uh, lakes in the area. And obviously, Utah was originally settled by the Ute Indians and other groups. But when it came to white people and the settlement of that area by the United States, the land was almost exclusively became the preserve of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, who were fleeing persecution in the Midwest, who were constantly practicing polygamous marriage, which made them the pariah of many of their societies and had led to the death of their own founder, Joseph Smith. A man named Brigham Young, the second leader of the Mormons, took them from their lands, I think it was in Missouri at the time, and all the way to Utah, where they settled and built up their settlements like Salt Lake City, which is the capital of Utah to this day, and Mormonism is still the largest religion in the state of Utah. A cult led by Charles Manson, thought not involved in the late LaBianca murders. Yep. The Tate LaBianca murders, for which Manson's family is best known. She attempted to assassinate. Yes, Squeaky Foam. She tried to shoot. She got off 2 shots, but none of them got close to hitting President Ford. And I believe she's apologized and made some sort of penance for that. You're not having a sitter just because, well, you're getting close with the 4 glasses of wine, Simon. So you enjoy that. Well, yeah. Let's see here. Grab it. Yes, thank you for sharing your information, by the way. Recall mandatory embargo alert for products manufactured by KUSHA. Okay, thank you, grab it. I had to dip out for a few minutes to groom a couple of horses for people. Cool. Polo is an ancient and awesome sport. Yes, it absolutely is. And it's so fascinating that you're invested in that. Job, I am Christians and many blessings to you. Thank you for that. I need them from whoever, for whatever reason. Who did a better job as the world power than we did? And I can confidently say the U.S. isn't doing it better at the minute. Not necessarily at the minute, but Great Britain did not take down the Soviet Union. Great Britain did not defeat the Nazis. I mean, the 20th century, when it comes to economic, social, and political development, the United States did it better. I'm sorry. Is Passover when you have to fast? That would not be a holiday for me. I think there is fasting during Passover. You're supposed to fast from based off the ancient customs from the book of Exodus. Because you are leaving, you are going on your exodus from Egypt in a hurry, you are not supposed to have time for your yeast and your bread to rise, so you don't eat bread, you don't eat carbs in many Jewish homes. Have a great weekend, except for trolls. Please step on the Lego and catch your sweater on the doorknob. At the same time, too. Thank you, Eve. Did anything interesting come out in the MLK, RFK, and JFK files? I haven't looked at the RFK and MLK files. The JFK files, a couple of things that I have found is more implications that Lee Harvey Oswald worked with the CIA, who might be responsible for Kennedy's death, and that MI6, the British special operatives, knew about it and warned that something big was going to happen, warned the CIA just before it happened. Yeah, you tell the story of the Exodus, all of that great stuff. Fast Day host did a video special on Yom. Yep, very cool. Yom Kippur is a whole fast all day long, if I'm correct. Which state killed more people, Kansas or Texas? Bleeding Kansas versus Mexican American. Interesting question. Not really the state. I would say Texas because you got the Texas Revolution you have to encounter there too. Joni, hello. Thank you for joining us. And yes, you are tuning into our live stream lecture. Simon, we're back tomorrow, Saturday, same time, by the way, just because of my scheduling difficulty. Then next Friday, we'll be back at 8. And Sundays, I have my live stream lecture at 4 p.m. Eastern. Simon, can you put the social media handles in the chat, please? Yeah, frying eggs with matzah and making a pizza is great. I've heard that. Yes, and I'm looking forward to a Seder meal that we'll be having at my church. Oh, that'll be fun. Enjoy that. Thank you for subbing, Joni. Do you have any questions or topics related to history or social studies you'd like to discuss? Tony, I am good. How are you? Brother, you get nothing but respect from me. You know a ton, but when you happen to be fuzzy on something, you own that. Bravo, sir. Yeah, I'm not going to fake it till I make it with something I don't know about. Sometimes someone will mention something, I won't know what it is. They'll mention it and be like, oh yeah, that was this. I didn't know that was what it was called. So I've been corrected on a lot of things. My most embarrassing moment was when I claimed that the very famous 1936 Olympics were in Munich. That's the 1972 Olympics, also famous, but for all the wrong reasons. But the 1936 Olympics of Jesse Owens were indeed in Berlin. So I've been fact-checked on many things. I said Paul Revere was a blacksmith. I've said different historical things that turned out not to be true, and I've had to adjust my thing, and I'm happy to own it. So thank you for saying that. That's so kind of you. And that is our pinned message, everybody. I own it when I'm wrong, and I love it when I'm right. Has there ever been a year in history where nothing really happened? I remember when I was a kid, because I loved history so much, I would ask my dad, what happened in this year? And he would say, what do you mean what happened in this year? A lot happened. And it's really, there are areas and times where there's less going on, but scratch and sniff, I do daily history shorts. So today in history, something's always going on. Sometimes more than others, but something's always going on every single day. let alone every single year. I mean, overall, I mean, it depends on your area. So if you're in, a certain area at a certain time period, there's not going to be as much information available, or maybe there's not as much going on as at another time period. Obviously, Europe in the 1500s has a lot more going on in its history than Europe in the 200s. So, I mean, overall, not in one century, and by 1941 and 1942, in no way was Britain a world power, bankrupt, and we were fully mobilized, and we're on the back foot. That's true, but why were you? Well, no worries, Joni. I'm just glad you're here, and thank you so much for joining us, and you can just chill out, listen, and enjoy it, and all that good stuff. Yeah, Jimmy, that's funny. I like that joke about Free Palestine. Till 1922, Britain was still considered the world power and the dominant great power, where the powers like France, the United States, Soviet Union, but Britain was still, yes, it was still the great power, but but even with that war, even with the British Navy, they couldn't win that war without the United States to some extent. Remember, we can take Jerusalem in seconds. We had to nerf ourselves. We were so good. Steve. Is that a crusade joke? You look like something, little bro. Thanks. Can you foresee any possibility in future that our US dollar will be worthless, or we will be trading and bartering, every man for himself? If the problems continue with the US currency, the devaluation of the currency, which could come out of the tariffs, Harry, something you might like to know about the tariffs and how devastating they might be, or something a lot of people might want to know, is that tariffs not just cause the prices of consumer goods to rise and bring in taxes on foreign goods, they also decrease the monetary supply of money in another country. So that means the US dollar, if it decreases to a level where it's not used by any of these countries, it will not be the value quality reserve. Not the pound, by the way, Harry, but the dollar will not be the reserve currency of the world, which will mean the American economy would collapse because the dollar would be totally flattened and devalued. The thing that's holding up the American dollar right now is the American dollar. It has no standard on which to stand, and it is borrowed against and spent all the time and printed all the time with no standard to back it up. And because of that, it could lead to a collapse that could force us back into bartering with silver and gold, no less, but still. When did Britain stop being a world power? I would say 1960. By the time Britain starts to empty out its control over Africa, it really has relinquished that in the face of a Cold War and acquiescing to American demands. And hopefully Harry agrees with me. What can you tell us about the Dutch in history? Okay, so the Dutch during the 17th century have the largest mercantile empire in the world. For centuries, they were the only country that was allowed to trade with the Japanese. In the 16, 17, and 1800s, the Japanese cut off all Europeans except the Dutch. The Dutch were known for their VOC, their trading company, a joint stock company that inspired the English joint stock company, which later would take over India and give England the Indian colony. The Dutch colonized Indonesia and held onto it until after World War II. For 80 years, they had fought for their independence from the Spanish and finally achieved it fully in 1648. Those are just a few things. They were one of the first successful republics in human history, establishing the Dutch Republic in the 17th century, which was the Dutch Golden Age. That's the era of incredible art by men like Van Dyck and, of course, Rembrandt van Rijn. But it's also the time when the Dutch mercantile empire brought them all over the world, trading in the Indian Ocean, the Sea of Java, the South China Sea, and, of course, all the way westward, settling New Amsterdam, which was later taken by the British and renamed New York. Are you interested in Bitcoin? Only if you give it to me for free. Britain is still a nuclear and world power. To be sure, there's still a lot of great power in it. Thank you for saying hi, Joni. Dollar never going to collapse because everyone wants to come to America. That doesn't have anything to do with our economic standing, unfortunately. Yes, sir, Steve, but our Navy is old and pointless. Our carriers don't have escorts. Britain's military power has dipped significantly. We're not what we used to be, and we need to get back to it. I mean, I understand we'll never be the great power we once were, but we should be a world power and a great power at that. Yep. Simon has and thank you, Simon, for putting the social media handles in there, Instagram, Facebook, and X. I have extra posts there. I also have updates. There's also a Patreon where you can get more exclusive content, like my series on the First Ladies, behind a paywall. You can also get early access to some of my videos that I post here on the channel. Every day I post a rest in peace video for who died on this day in history, a born today video, and today's history. And I'm doing different videos at different times. I'm currently doing a short series on the Russian history. I've already done a short series on the Russian Tsars. Check that out if you'd like. And every Monday and Friday, I have long-form videos dropping at 8 p.m. Eastern. So check out the one that drops tonight, where I summarize the reign of each Russian Tsar in a sentence or two. And HSS, do you have OnlyFans? I do not. But thank you for thinking I might. Where do European Jews come from? So those are what are called the Ashkenazi Jews, based off of a group of Ashkenaz, which was the name of one of Noah's grandchildren. Ashkenazi Jews are called that because they are of that region of Ashkenaz, who supposedly was a son of Japheth, who supposedly settled in Europe, according to the biblical understandings. But basically, the European Jews migrated there in their diaspora, starting with the Greeks after the destruction of the Second Temple in 586. Jews were spread all over the ancient world. Many of them came to Greece and eventually made it to Rome when Rome was an empire. And from there, they were dispersed into Europe. And that's how you get a development of European Ashkenazi Jews that have been part of that history for 2,000 years. Which one would you ever join? Are we back? Okay, we are back. Where do European Jews come from? European Jews come from, oh, I already answered that. Which would you rather join? FBI, USDA? Neither right now. Thank you for subscribing, Hike. Where are my history boys at? We're all here. Triglyceride, great to see you as usual. Was meth used a lot in World War II as described by Joe Rogan? If so, how was there not a drug problem after World War II? I don't know that meth was. Morphine, which is one of the ingredients was similar to heroin, was used as a painkiller during World War III. Fidel, did you hear when motion pictures came to Los Angeles, they irrigated the land to make it green and appealing? Sounds about right. Let me see. Speed was legal until the early 90s. Not quite until the early 90s, but the earliest Coca-Cola did have cocaine in it. Harry, we were no longer the great power in 1922. We were no longer one of the world powers in 1942. We were no longer decent power by 1990. Don't be so hard on yourselves. Chechnyan history is quite interesting. Chechnya is a disputed region in the Transcaucasus region that Russia annexed, I think, in 2008. 2006. Pervitin was an amphetamine. Interesting. Happy Friday, Michael. Great to see you. Hicks, I'm getting more than enough. Or am I? Thank you for being insanely personal. I really appreciate you wasting time out of your day and everyone else's to do that. When I was in Afghanistan, they gave me bad... That's weird. I'm sorry about that, Simon. When I was in Afghanistan, they gave me bad dream pills. I decided risking malaria was worth not taking them. Now I lead a merry band against the Sheriff of Nottingham. Well, I'm glad you did that, Robin Hood, and you have reached the Friendly Neighborhood History channel. Thank you for your rebellion against King John. Be sure to like and subscribe. Aren't poppy seeds opioids? Yes, that's where they actually get what they use, the main ingredients for heroin. So, anyways, thank you for joining us. This is the Friendly Neighborhood History channel. I hope you have enjoyed our Q&A. We've got about 10 more minutes to go. So if anyone has any questions related to history or social studies, I'll be happy to answer them. The only we're not totally irrelevant is our nuclear weapons, and even they are crap. Harry, don't beat yourself too much. Who is worse, Hitler or Stalin? This is a video I made a few weeks ago. So thank you, AI Shadow, for asking this. A few weeks ago, I made a video. I do a hot take. Every day I do a quick 15-second hot take video where I give a historical hot take that people can disagree with, but they're wrong. The video I made was I said that the Nazis would have allowed U.S. and Great Britain to go, and if Britain had surrendered in 1940, and the Nazis probably would not have invaded the British Isles or attacked the United States or gone to war with the U.S. if Britain and the United States had stayed out of World War II or World War III, as I should say, after the Nazis captured France. This was seen as me praising the Nazis and being pro-Nazi, even though that is just a historical opinion. I obviously hate the Nazis and think that they're terrible, but I'm obviously making an opinion, and that got flagged and removed, incredibly enough, and I appealed it. That went nowhere. So I got flagged and removed, which that was fun. I'm glad that, and apparently I'm a white supremacist according to YouTube on that one. I love YouTube. I love what they allow me to do. I don't love that. So I made a video a couple days later I was like, will this one stir the pot a little bit more? And I said that Stalin was worse than Hitler, and that's a historical hot take, meaning it's an opinion that people can disagree with and often do. Stalin killed significantly more people than Hitler. Stalin had a series of purges and trials at a much greater and nastier clip than the Night of the Long Knives and Hitler's purging of the SAS, the killing of Ernst Rune and stuff like that in 1935. The truth of the matter is that the Soviets and Stalin were extremely brutal. 20 to 30 million people were killed. 25,000 people starved to death a day in the Ukraine during the Holodomor, where Stalin forced collectivization down the throat of the Ukrainian people. So, yeah, so AI, Stalin is worse, but Hitler's still awful. It's not about who's better, it's about who's worse. Front legs are good, cooked in butter, and frog legs. I thought you said front legs. I was a little worried about that, but that's true, Zip. You shall receive both, only if you join my band as band's lead historian. Yes, I will gladly join anything you would like. So thank you. Let me see here. Channel activity. Okay, but thank you for joining us, Robin Hood. It's always great to have a figure, even a mythical one, from history. Respect from Australia. Great. Thank you for joining us from down under. Who will win, Israel or Palestine? Tough one. I think Israel's won. I think Palestine, the Palestinians will not admit it. And I think the U.S. has no business setting up their own country there. That's ridiculous. Not to ruin religious people's Seder, however, is there any archaeological evidence that Jews were slaves in Egypt? There has been evidence of chariot remains and shields found at the bottom of the Red Sea, which might support the idea that the Egyptian army drowned in the Red Sea, but that is a stretch. There is the Maranatha tale. There is this conquest of Egypt, of Israel by Ramesses II. It is part of the New Kingdom that the land of Canaan, as it was known, was controlled by the Egyptians. And then afterwards, a group of Hebrews showed up and liberated it, becoming an independent country, the Davidic, led by judges, and later the Davidic kingdom. That's all pretty much historically canon. In 1925, Russian suddenly became a part of Ukraine. Who did that? Well, I don't know about that. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Socialist Republics at the time. Stephen, the Chinese dictator, I think he killed over 100 million. Well, that's Mao. He killed about 60, and that's including forced famines and natural disasters and things like that. Anyone who looks at history in total would agree Stalin was way worse. Way, I wouldn't say, but worse to be sure. We find the word Hebrew in Egyptian sources. Yes, a Hebrew, which becomes Hebrew, was an insult used for Jews. So Shurikian is also correct. That's a true one as well. I didn't answer yours. What was yours? Ask it again and I'll answer it. Kami, do you know any interesting stuff about the Aztecs? They're one of my faves. Boy, do I have a story for you. A lot of people think the Aztecs were here forever and had a long-time empire before Cortez showed up, destroyed Tenochtitlan, and killed Moctezuma II. The truth of the matter is the Aztec Empire was only about a century old, and Cortez had to use all the natives who rebelled against the Aztecs to destroy their society. They were an advanced society that were extraordinarily militaristic. If the Mayans were like the Athenians, the Aztecs were like the Spartans, and they were the inheritors of the Mayan glory and control over large areas of now Mexico and Guatemala. They weren't as big as the Mayan Empire, but they were far more brutal and far more repressive, and they had a series of tribes who they were constantly relying on, to the Quatetecs and the Toltecs and stuff like that, who they constantly relied on for tribute and manpower. The tribute was often people that were often sacrificed, and that's what the Aztecs are best known for, perhaps worst known for, human sacrifice. The Aztecs were an extremely fierce and warlike people. They worshipped several different gods like Quetzalcoatl, Quetzaltec. There's a bunch of different animalistic humanoid gods that the Aztecs worshipped. They had a very polytheistic, very complex religious system that involved human sacrifice. They had a strong military hand, and the Spanish never would have beaten them had it not been for the help of the fellow Indians. So there's a few things about the Aztecs, Kami. Are any current countries or civilizations that don't use a currency? Nope, and some of them have standardized their currency, like BRICS and the euro. Diddy or Drake? Oh, God. How about prison or the giant meter? And yes, Kevin's right. Like the live, subscribe for more. Stephen, I think the same Chinese dictator, he murdered all those little blue jays or whatever, the crop of birds, all kinds of... Yes, I've heard about that before, Stephen. I don't know if that's true. Where is Omni-Man? I heard Omni-Man because I don't know what you're talking about. Join us tomorrow. We've got a deep dive into a historical topic with our live stream lecture on Sunday at 4. Tomorrow, at the same time, I will be bringing you from some more friendly neighborhood history. What do you think of the so-called socialized medicine in the U.S., and what do you think of the Second Amendment? Okay, so socialized medicine doesn't really exist in the U.S. Some states have basically created a socialized medicine system, but socialized medicine is where the government nationalizes the health industry and provides free healthcare for everyone, which is called universal healthcare, which Great Britain, Germany, France, the U.K., and Canada and Israel all have, Mexico as well, and the United States hasn't quite gone that far yet because the United States is far to the right of other countries in domestic policy. It seems to be the trend that the U.S. will get there. What I find interesting in the political debate is that there are very few people who argue for more obviously needed regulations of the private health industry. If you're going to keep private health insurances, they should be heavily regulated. And that's something no one's talking about because it's like we have to jump immediately into socialized medicine. The Second Amendment, and by the way, the British Bill of Rights does have something similar, not exactly the same, but does discuss the right for weaponry and the owning of weaponry for the citizenry. but not to the same extent the Second Amendment does in the United States. The Second Amendment is based on the notion created by the founders when they formed the Bill of Rights and the Constitution that they had not won the American Revolution and their independence from the British Empire through their moral cause necessarily, but through the help of France, which was the actual truth, but also because they had been able to mobilize themselves using whatever weapons they had at any point and developed well-regulated militias. So a well-regulated militia being necessary for the maintenance of freedom, or something like that, I forget how it goes, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Carthaginians used to sacrifice babies to Baal, the god of plant fertility. Yes, and many different civilizations throughout human history have practiced human sacrifice. Zeus destroys the world because he sees humans sacrificing one another and then eating each other, and then saves a few of them on a boat. No one in the ark, anyone? I don't know. Hey, buddy, I am from the United States. Not going to go into much more detail, but thank you for joining us. Do you like raisins? I do. Not as much as grapes, but I do. UNC, can you shout out all your Mexican fans? Yes. Shout out to all my Mexi friends. All my amigos. Can you tell me about the Philippine-American War? So Emilio Aguinaldo was a Filipino revolutionary who led the Philippines in revolution against the Spanish. The United States came and helped him, Admiral George Dewey in 1898. And Aguinaldo believed after the United States had gotten the Philippines free, they would give them their freedom. The United States, which was in love with social Darwinism, believed that the Filipinos were not culturally developed enough to run their own country, and in a very racist decision decided to take over the Philippines until those Filipinos became civilized enough to have their own country. Aguinaldo hated this and led a rebellion that was eventually put down by General John Blackjack Pershing and the Americans. Aguinaldo ended up in prison, and only late in life did he see the Philippines go free. He was later conquered by the Japanese during World War II and taken back by the Americans, and then right after World War II, the United States granted the Philippines its independence. But the Philippine-American War is the struggle after the Spanish-American War that nobody talks about, where the Americans forced their imperialism down the throats of the native Filipinos who wanted to be their own country. How have humans only lost wars against birds? Because birds are the best. And if you want more insights and read some of my ideas, check out the Substack. And if you want more exclusive content, such as my series on the First Ladies, check out the Patreon. Thank you, Froggy. I'm doing my best. Got that combination down tight. Coming soon. War, USA versus Iran. I hope not, Salim. I hope not, but maybe. What history makes you constantly cry? Consistently cry. Holocaust. Loss of the lands of the Native Americans, Stalin, what I just talked about with the Holodomor, genocide, that's definitely one that makes me cheer up, things like that. Yeah, sorry, that got deep. By that second interpretation, doesn't it guarantee all weapons, including modern weapons? Steve, that's what a libertarian would tell you, but the truth of the matter is the founders didn't have any idea what a machine gun or a tank was and had no envision of a human being owning one of those things, even if they had it. So. Shalom, Ronald. But in Britain, our government is allowed to regulate the ownership of guns and crap. In the U.S., it's a massive debate whether the government can say that mentally ill people can own a gun. It's not a big debate. I find no one believes that mentally ill people should own a gun in these states, as far as I know. And the British government doesn't only regulate guns, they ban them. Fidel, how much does our history books from school is misleading or a cover-up? For example, Columbus discovering America or Lincoln freeing the slaves. It used to be that way. Now it's going the other way, where it's condemnation of figures like Columbus and Lincoln. Nobody can seem to find the balance between wokeism and jingoistic nonsense, and they both had their day in the sun. The Howard Zinn narrative, where everyone in history is bad until now, has seemingly taken over. Well, everyone who is white is bad, and then the contrary to that, on the other side, is this flag-waving John Wayne history book, basically, where everybody who got in America's way has been evil. And I just explained how the Filipinos obviously weren't. So I think that there's so much history available online that both of those narratives are dying out. That's the good news. And people are learning history from people like me. And that's what I'm so thrilled about. And that's why I knew it was a good idea to start a channel. I knew it was a good idea to keep it going. We don't understand Hebrew, but we do respect people who do. And you've got to be 21 to drink beer and smoke cigarettes, but you've got to be 16 to own a gun. That's highly backwards. You can't own a gun at 16. Depends on the state, but to the best of my knowledge, I don't think there's a single state that lets you own a firearm at the age of 18. And I somewhat agree, which is why they should lower the smoking and drinking age. Or at least raise them all to 25 when the human brain fully develops. Do you think James A. Garfield would have been a good president, considering he was probably one of the most highly educated and very intelligent? That's a great question, Harry. I think so. He would have been a good president. He had good ideas, but just obviously got shot, and then his doctors screwed up his recovery and killed him. I hope you figure out the whole entertainment part because you got the history part down. I'm doing my best with the entertainment. I hope I've been entertaining for you, Hicksteth. Thank you. What time is it in my city? I don't know. Right now in New York City, it's 7:09. The Gap. Well, this is how I pay my credit card bills. I swipe right through it. Okay, guns are not banned in the UK. They're just highly regulated. In the Constitution in America, it says the government can make them highly regulated. Yes, that's true. I agree with that. That's true, Harry. You can own a handgun in the UK. You can own a rifle in the UK, and you can own a shotgun in the UK. How long does it take you to get one? Harry, the only difference is that you cannot own a gun in the UK for self-defense, as that is not considered a valid reason. Which is one of the main reasons to own one in the first place, but okay. Word, if you have a hunting license, you can get a permit to buy shotguns and rifles, but not pistols. Okay, Word, thank you, Word and Harry, for setting me straight on that. See, I'm always learning here. At 16, oh yeah. Not pistols, but shotguns and rifles for hunting. Okay. Interesting, thank you. They're banned for most, if not all people, unless you're a farmer. Is it not? Modern guns? I mean, I'm not really sure about historical stuff. Historical stuff, there's a different litmus test for that in UK and the United States. Hello from Germany. What are you talking about? We were talking about the history of gun rights, but we've been talking about anything, any type of history or social studies you'd like to ask about. I'm here to answer, including from Germany. Are the FBI MLK recordings available? No, but they should be, Nathan. I think they should be, and maybe they will be part of the declassified process because they basically lied about MLK all the time. Simon is SS. He thinks his Secret Service, but his Canada's Strutstoffel. What? Triglyceride? Are you okay? Somebody do a wellness check on triglyceride. Is it true some of our sovereign states had an outlaw interbreeding? Yep. Totally true. And was common in the culture they came from in Northern England, Ireland, and Scotland. So anyways, I'll take one more question. We're just at an hour. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. This is the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel, and I'm History Hefner. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, because of my scheduling change today. It's usually 8 p.m. on Fridays, but today it was 6. But you know what? We had a really good showing, so we might just stick to 6. It's easier for Harry and Simon. I know that. But 6 p.m. Saturday, come and ask us your questions. Empty your pantaloons. We use knives instead, like Jolly Good. That is Jolly Good. Remember, folks, this channel isn't monetized, and Friendly dedicates hours each week to bring us highly quality history content. Please like and subscribe. We're not monetized, but with your help, our goal is to get there this year. Who's your favorite ancient Greek philosopher? Why? And what's your favorite thing about him? I love Plato because I love the cave. It takes 2 years to get a gun in the UK on average, which is totally fair, by the way. 2 years. Whoa. I'm just so used to being American. That just sounds ridiculous. That's a cultural difference. Pirates. Yep, thank you for the good show. The fact that you can walk into a shop and the same day get a gun in America is ridiculous. See, it's a cultural difference. So it's based on the culture you're raised in. So in my culture, obviously, you can get a gun anytime you want, as long as you're safe with it, and as long as you pass a background check and people know who you are. And in some states, it's really easy, and in some states, it's incredibly hard. In the UK, it's almost impossible. It's very hard. It takes a long time, and it may not even be worth the wait. And it costs money. So it costs money in both areas. So I guess that's part of it. It's still lucrative for those who run and sell them. So thank you so much. You are so kind, Kevin. I really appreciate that. Have you heard of Epicurus? He's really interesting. He is. I love Diogenes, who died from laughter when somebody told him a joke. So thank you, Harry, for sharing that. Right. So you can't conceal it. I understand. I understand that, Harry. So it is fascinating how different it is in countries that have a very similar history otherwise. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody. Can you tell me about Blackbeard? Ooh, Edward Teach, Golden Age of Piracy. I did a video on him. Go check out the video. I think you'll really like it. Just go to my channel and look up Friendly Neighborhood History, Blackbeard. Blackbeard's a fascinating character. Only was operating for a couple years. So I have to head out to my appointment, but thank you. Stay dangerous yourself, Biz. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Take care. Yes, and I will be back. Let me see. I will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern for another Q&A. Take care. Harry, thank you for sharing all of that about Britain and its history, and of course about its gun rights. That's fascinating to know the nuance there, not just an American perspective on it. So thank you so much. I hope you guys take care. Waka waka, and have a great Friday. And I will see you guys throughout the weekend, Saturday at 6 and Sunday at 4. Have a great night, and remember, love history. Bye-bye now.